Hi, I'm Millie Long with Power of the Patient Project. And if you want to know what happens when you combine medicine and technology, my guest is here to talk all about it. He is Dr. Brennan Spiegel, the Director of Health Services Research for Cedars-Sinai Health System and Professor of Medicine and Public Health at UCLA, where he teaches digital health science, health analysis, and health economics. Dr. Spiegel directs the Cedars-Sinai Center for Outcomes Research and Education, a multidisciplinary team that investigates how digital health technologies can strengthen the patient-doctor bond, improve outcomes, and save money. He founded Virtual Medicine, the first international symposium dedicated to medical virtual reality. Dr. Spiegel has published numerous best-selling medical textbooks, editorials, and more than 215 articles in peer-reviewed journals. What an established resume. Welcome, Dr. Spiegel.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So first, can you tell us about your position as Director of Research at Cedars-Sinai and what your team is currently researching?
Sure. So I'm the director of what we call health services research. And what that means is how can we deliver healthcare in a way that improves the outcomes of care, reduces the costs of care, and provides equitable care and high value care. So that we're really interested in a variety of different aspects of that, including the use of technologies. So for example, we use a variety of different technologies, wearable biosensors, smartphone applications, and of course, virtual reality to help engage our patients in lots of different ways. But we also do lots of other things like health economic analyses and surveys and other types of methodological approaches to help understand what our patients want, what they need, and how we can engage them in the most effective and valuable way.
That sounds good. So can you explain what virtual medicine is for someone like me who is not technical at all? So it's a little bit intimidating coming into this interview, but I am so glad to learn from you. So can you explain what virtual medicine is and how it's currently being used to benefit patients?
Sure. Well, virtual medicine has sort of a broad context, and it really means that we're not practicing medicine face to face, but at a distance. So some people, think of telemedicine, for example, taking care of people through the computer screen, which is, less than ideal, but something we've had to do over the past year, as we all know, because of COVID-19. But virtual medicine can mean more than just using the computer to talk to people like we are right now. It can mean using remote monitoring of people to see how people are sleeping or how people are getting around and functioning, using sensors or Fitbits, for example. It could mean measuring somebody's heart activity while they're at home through the doctor's office to see if there's any concerns developing. From our standpoint, we're interested in virtual reality or VR, which is a particular type of technology. Many of your, listeners here may have heard of virtual reality, and when they think of VR, you think of sort of a gaming platform, for kids playing first-person shooter games or something like that.
Right.
And, it is that, but it's so much more than that. It turns out VR is a profound technology that can kind of nudge the human mind, and we can use it for gaming entertainment, but we can also use it for health and wellness. And we have a group at Cedars that's been totally focused on how can we use virtual reality as a non-pharmacological or non-drug treatment for a variety of conditions, including pain, anxiety, depression, phobias, high blood pressure, even dementia, schizophrenia, and the list goes on and on.
That sounds so exciting. So for just a layperson like me, is it safe to say you use this virtual reality technology to almost trick the brain into thinking something different as it relates to taking a person's mind off pain, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to use the word trick necessarily, but that's okay. I understand why you say that, and that comes up a lot. The human brain is capable of tremendous things. We have a tremendous ability to imagine, for example. So we all have this inner voice. And we all have these scenes that flash on our mind's eye. We can see things no one else can see and hear things no one else can hear. But that voice can also, in a way, trick us into believing things we shouldn't believe, things about ourselves, things about others. So what talk therapy is, when you see a psychologist or a therapist, is really about taking a step away from your own mind and rethinking your own thoughts. And what VR does is it allows us to do that sometimes without a therapist at all, or you can kind of rethink your own thoughts in virtual reality. And there's so many different examples. For example, we have a treatment that we've been creating for irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, where there's real physical pain, but what sometimes can happen is the emotional pain ends up becoming even more impactful. And people can go into sort of cycles of negative cognitions about their pain. So we have a VR treatment we're creating where you really sit in this movie theater, and the movie theater is your mind, and you're looking up on the screen, and what's happening on the screen are the thoughts in your mind. And you have to challenge those thoughts and tell the projectionist behind you to change the movie if things don't look the way you want them to. And we actually use 360-degree VR where you fly right into your thoughts and you swirl around inside of them. And so this is just an example of what we can do. Or we have done this with women undergoing, going through labor and delivery. I've never been through that, but I understand it can be uncomfortable, painful.
Very.
I've seen it many times, but we use virtual reality there as well, where women who are in labor can wear the headset, and as they breathe in and out, the microphone on the headset detects their breathing, and they can breathe life into a tree or a forest. The forest can expand and contract with their breathing in this Lamaze-style biofeedback. So that's yet another example, and I can go on and on, I'll stop there, but we have so many other examples where we use VR for pain and many other conditions.
It sounds very exciting and very promising of just how broad the use for this technology can be. And I don't want to take too much time, but how long do you think it'll be before this becomes just general and commonplace and, all mothers have access to it or things like that?
Well, that's a great question. In fact, just published a book just about this very topic.
Yes.
It's called VRX, How Virtual Therapeutics Will Revolutionize Medicine. And the book is so firstly, it's about VR, but it's really about what does VR teach us about our own consciousness? What does it teach us about the way the mind and the body are connected? About the limits of psychology and clinical medicine, the boundaries of neuroscience, and how can we think about the intersection between clinical medicine, technology, psychology, and neuroscience, and even philosophy. So it covers a lot of ground. And to get to your question, I end the book by trying to project where we're going to be in a few years. And what's amazing is if you look at it right now, we already have 5,000 or more studies showing that VR can really help meaningfully with a variety of conditions. And we don't need to wait 5 years. There's already over 200 hospitals around the US, including ours, using virtual reality. And the picture behind me here is Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. We have the largest hospital in the Western US, and we already have treated over 3,000 people with VR.
What inspired you to write that book in the first place?
Well, really, it was the stories from the patients themselves that inspired me to put it all down into words. And, after having used VR in 3,000 or more patients, there's been so many incredible stories, and I wanted to capture some of those stories in the book. And, one that I talk about in the book and that really comes to mind is one particular patient who had really significant abdominal pain and had been hospitalized for her pain. And, I happen to be a gastroenterologist, so they called me in to help figure out what was going on with her pain. And, she had been looked at carefully, had CT scans and endoscopies where we put a camera in the stomach and lab tests, and everything had been normal. So we didn't know what was going on. So I decided to use a virtual reality headset. And I put this headset on her head, and she went from being in a hospital room to being transformed into swimming with dolphins. All of a sudden, she's underwater and she's swimming with dolphins. She told me she really liked animals, so we thought that would make sense, just to kind of distract her from, the distress of being in a hospital and suffering from pain. And so she's looking around, and she can hear the the squeaking dolphins, and she's looking around in the water, listening to music, when after about 4 minutes, she started to cry. And I said, are you okay? She said, yeah, I'm okay, but I think I know why I have this pain. And I said, really, tell me more. She said, I think it's because of my brother. And I was surprised. I said, your brother? She said, yeah, my brother, he died of stomach cancer. And I think that's how I'm going to die too. And I said, but we've been inside your stomach. We put a camera in there and there is no cancer. And she said, I know, you guys keep telling me that, but I haven't been willing to accept it. But there's something about these dolphins that they're telling me I need to move on with my life. I need to accept this and move on. And she said, a year on the couch and I wouldn't have figured this out, but there's something about these dolphins. And she said, by the way, my stomach pain is better too. And I'm ready to go home. And so, I thought to myself, man, I'm a gastroenterologist, not a psychiatrist. But somehow in a matter of just, 10 minutes, she had had this epiphany about her body, about her mind, and about her life. And, I didn't have an MRI scanner at the time to see what was going on in her brain, but we now have a pretty good idea of what is happening in the brain in those moments. And the book that I wrote talks about those moments and about those stories and what is happening in the brain. Why do those sorts of breakthroughs occur? And what is it about VR in particular that allows us to have those kinds of breakthroughs? So really, that was the inspiration behind the book.
That is such a beautiful story. And I know it makes you feel so fulfilled to know that you're directly impacting people's lives like that. In your opinion, what are some changes or new technologies that we can expect to see in the healthcare system in the near future?
Yeah, well, if we stick with virtual reality for this question, there's all sorts of interesting new ways to sort of supercharge VR. So for example, there are new devices called brain-computer interfaces, which on the one hand might seem kind of strange or for some people a little bit scary. The idea that we can actually sort of read brain waves and use that information to help with health and wellness. So, just as an example, because this sort of sounds crazy, it's easier just to understand an example. I used a program where I had a strap over my forehead that was measuring brain waves. It's an EEG machine, and the strap was monitoring for signs of relaxation. Because I may say, "Oh, I feel relaxed," but my brain's not really relaxed. But there are very particular patterns in the brain that occur when you're really in a flow state, when you're really relaxed and comfortable. And so what was interesting about this is I was wearing a VR headset and I was in the Yosemite Valley, on the floor of the valley in Yosemite. But as I started to truly relax, I was rewarded by flying up in the air. And as I got more and more relaxed, I flew up over the top of the Yosemite Valley and flew right out of it. And so the whole point of this is that we can use these sorts of technologies for biofeedback, which is something that Buddhist monks know how to do, but they've been training for 30 or 40,000 hours, and it's sort of like a shortcut. We can almost hack our brain into becoming as good as a Buddhist monk by using these sort of biofeedback, whether it's measuring brain waves or your heart rate or the amount of sweat in your skin. These are all technologies we can measure with sensors to change our experiences in VR for the better.
And I think that's what technology is for, to be able to help us with these processes and get there a little bit more quickly. So if someone's watching this and they want to know more about VR and how they can connect with some of those doctors that practice that in their local area in one of those 200 hospitals you were talking about, where can they go and how would they go about doing that?
So we created a website. It's called virtualmedicine.org or virtualmedicine.health. It's the same website. And on that website, you can find all sorts of free information that's been sort of academically reviewed by our team. We have all sorts of a whole library of videos from experts around the world talking about VR. We have patients who have used VR talking about their experiences. We show people using VR in the clinic so you can see what it's like. All of our research is there. Plus, we have a page of all of our favorite VR programs. Some of these you can get yourself if you already own a VR headset, particularly an Oculus, which is the most popular type of VR these days. You can download, of course, you could download games and entertainment, but on that same Oculus store, you can download apps for health and wellness. We are also developing new apps all the time at our lab at Cedars-Sinai. And as I mentioned, we're going to have a full VR program that we'll be announcing in the fall. And also say that we put on webinars routinely. These are free. We record them. So if you miss them, all of those webinars are on our website. We also have new ones coming up all the time. And you can see the schedule of events there. So that's one place to learn more. And like I said, there's about 200 hospitals using VR. Just a matter of finding out which one is closest to you.
Absolutely. Sounds like a great resource for patients. And how would people be able to grab your book, VRX, How Immersive Therapeutics Will Transform Medicine?
Yeah, so the book is available, wherever books are sold. It's on Amazon, Basic Books, wherever, Barnes and Nobles. I was really gratified that Wired Magazine named it one of the top 8 science books of 2020. And that's gratifying as an author, but it's also really shows that this field is gaining traction. And in fact, the FDA has now named this a whole new field of medicine. The FDA calls it medical extended reality, or MXR. So anyway, that's all in the book, and you can pick it up wherever books are sold.
Sounds good. One last question. Were you a gamer as a kid?
It's funny because I really wasn't. You would have thought I was. I'm not a gamer. So I've come to this from a totally different background. I was a philosophy major, so that's probably what really interests me in it.
Gotcha. And it's great how you were able to combine those two fields. Thank you so much again, Dr. Spiegel, for joining us. We appreciate your time and all your information and you being at the forefront of this new and emerging medicine. I'm Millie Long with Power of the Patient Project.
Thanks.